Welcome, join me in the captivating journey back in time as we delve into a pivotal moment in history, the passing of King George IV. In this intriguing episode, we shall explore the life, fashion, controversies, and enigmatic personality of a monarch who left an undeniable mark on the Regency era. From his influence on trends to his complex relationships and profound impact on British society, join us as we unravel the layers of this multifaceted ruler and the circumstances that surrounded his final moments. Prepare to immerse yourself in a tale of politics, fashion, and character as we unveil the compelling narrative of the demise of King George IV. George's excessive alcohol consumption and self-indulgent way of life had a detrimental impact on his health by the late 1820s. During his time as the Prince of Wales, his extravagant feasts and excessive alcohol intake led to obesity, resulting in mockery when he made rare public appearances. By 1797, his weight had reached a staggering 245 pounds, and by 1824 his corset had to accommodate a waistline of 50 inches. He suffered from gout, arteriosclerosis, peripheral edema, and possibly porphyria. In his final years, he spent entire days confined to his bed, experiencing intense and severe episodes of breathlessness. George's later years were characterized by a steady decline in both physical and mental health, as well as a withdrawal from public affairs. Privately, a senior aide to the king noted in his diary, "A more despicable, cowardly, self-centered, unfeeling individual does not exist. There have been virtuous and wise kings, though not many, and I believe this one to be among the worst." By December 1828, much like his father, George had almost completely lost his eyesight due to cataracts, and his severe gout in his right hand and arm had rendered him unable to sign documents. In mid-1829, David Wilkie reported that the king was visibly wasting away day by day, and his obesity had reached a point where he resembled a large sausage squeezed into casing. To alleviate intense bladder pains, George resorted to taking laudanum, often leaving him in a state of drugged and mental impairment for extended periods of time. In September 1829, he underwent surgery to remove a cataract, during which he regularly consumed over 100 drops of laudanum before official occasions. By the spring of 1830, George's impending demise was evident. Mostly confined to his bedchambers and having lost complete sight in one eye, he likened himself to a blind as a beetle, needing to endorse legislation with a stamped signature in front of witnesses. His weight had ballooned to 280 pounds, and frequent bouts of breathlessness caused by dropsy forced him to sleep upright in a chair, and doctors frequently drained excess fluid from his abdomen. Despite his visible deterioration, George was commended for stubbornly clinging to life. His tenacity and appetite were astonishing, and in April 1830 the Duke of Wellington wrote that the king's breakfast consisted of a pigeon and beefsteak pie, 3/4 of a bottle of Moselle, a glass of dry champagne, 2 glasses of port, and a glass of brandy, all followed by a hefty dose of laudanum. Writing to Maria Fitzherbert in June, the king's physician, Sir Henry Halford, noted, "His Majesty possesses a robust constitution, and his resilience under the most severe strain exceeds anything I have witnessed in 38 years of experience." While George had been under Halford's care since the Regency period, the doctor's social aspirations and perceived lack of competence faced severe criticism, with the Lancet denouncing Halford's health updates on the king as completely devoid of information. Halford's treatment of George, which involved administering both opium and laudanum as sedatives, was seen as lacking coherence or purpose. George dictated his final testament in May, and entered a phase of profound devotion during his last months. He made a confession to an archdeacon, expressing his remorse for his dissolute way of life and hoping for mercy due to his efforts to prioritize the well-being of his subjects. By June, his ability to recline was compromised, and on the 14th of that month he received the sacrament in the presence of Lady Conyngham, Halford, and a clergyman. Although Halford officially informed the Cabinet on the 24th of June that the King's persistent cough is accompanied by significant expectoration, he privately confided to his wife that things are drawing to a close, and I anticipate being liberated around Monday. Around 3 in the early hours of June the 26th, 1830, at Windsor Castle, George awakened and experienced a bowel movement characterized by a substantial evacuation mixed with blood. He immediately summoned Halford, reportedly exclaiming to his attendants, Sir Henry, fetch him, this is death!" Accounts of George's final moments and his last utterances diverge. According to Halford, after his swift arrival along with Sir William Knighton, the King's lips turned bluish, and he rested his head on the page's shoulder. "I reached the upstairs within 5 minutes, and a mere 8 minutes later he had passed away." Other narratives recount that the King placed his hands on his abdomen and uttered, "Certainly this must be death," or that he exclaimed, "Good God, what is this?" and clasped the hand of his page, stating, "My boy, this is death." George's passing occurred at 3:15 a.m., and an autopsy conducted by his attending physicians unveiled that George had succumbed to upper gastrointestinal bleeding caused by the rupture of a blood vessel in his stomach. An extensive tumour roughly the size of an orange was discovered attached to his bladder. His heart exhibited enlargement, heavily calcified valves, and was enveloped by a substantial layer of fat. The King was interred in St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle on the 15th of July. George's sole legitimate offspring, Charlotte, had perished due to postpartum complications in 1817, shortly after delivering a stillborn son. George III's second son, Frederick, Duke of York and Albany, passed away without progeny in 1827. Consequently, the throne was inherited by George III's third son, William, Duke of Clarence, who ascended as William IV. George earned the moniker First Gentleman of England due to his refined style and manners, and he possessed intellect, wit, and erudition, yet his excessive eating led him to squander much of his potential. The Times remarked that he consistently favoured a woman and a bottle over matters of politics and sermons. The Regency era ushered in a significant shift in fashion, largely influenced by George, and when his political adversaries imposed a tax on wig powder, he abandoned powdered wigs in favour of his natural hair. Opting for darker hues that helped camouflage his size, he popularised pantaloons and trousers over knee breeches for their more relaxed fit. He also introduced a high collar accompanied by a neckcloth to conceal his double chin. His sojourn to Scotland in 1822 played a pivotal role in the resurgence, if not the inception, of the Scottish tartan dress as it is recognised today. Amid the political turmoil arising from Catholic emancipation, the Duke of Wellington expressed a damning assessment of George, labelling him the most wretched man he ever encountered in his entire life, the most self-centred, deceitful, malicious, devoid of any redeeming trait. Nonetheless, Wellington's eulogy in the House of Lords hailed George as the most accomplished individual of his era, commending his intellect and aptitude. Wellington's true sentiment perhaps lay between those two extremes, as he later articulated George was a splendid benefactor of the arts, an extraordinary blend of talent, wit, buffoonery, stubbornness, and goodwill. In short, a fusion of the most contrasting attributes with a substantial inclination towards the positive, an amalgamation I've never witnessed in any character before. Following George's passing, the Times sunkenly captured the sentiment of the elite. No individual has been less mourned by his fellow human beings than this departed king, whose eye had shed a tear for him, whose heart has throbbed with genuine, unselfish sorrow. If he ever had a friend, a truly devoted friend from any walk of life, we assert that their name never reached our ears. Numerous statues of George IV were erected, with a significant portion during his reign. In the United Kingdom, these encompass a bronze equestrian statue by Sir Francis Chantrey in Trafalgar Square, portraying him on horseback. In Edinburgh, the George IV Bridge stands as a principal thoroughfare connecting the Old Town High Street to the north over the Cowgate Ravine. Designed by architect Thomas Hamilton in 1829 and completed by 1835, it bears the appellation of King's Cross, now a major transportation hub on the cusp of Camden and Islington in North London, traces back to a short-lived monument raised in honour of George IV in the early 1830s. A square and adjacent park in St Luke's, Islington, also bear George IV's name. Thank you for listening to Past People, and again, please subscribe to support my channel.